Hey, guys, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe for more amazing videos.
After we review the video, for those of you who couldn't watch all 7 hours of hearings today, in other words, almost all of you, we're going to take the next few minutes to present a short summary of both hearings. His opening statement in the first hearing at the Judiciary Committee, Robert Mueller accepted the ground rules suggested to him in a Justice Department letter this week.
The Justice Department has asserted privileges concerning investigative information and decisions, ongoing matters within the Justice Department, and deliberations within our office. These are Justice Department privileges that I will respect.
And with that, Robert Mueller guaranteed that he would end up refusing to answer dozens and dozens of questions. In fact, he ended up using those ground rules to refuse to answer over 100 questions, mostly because the answers would have required him to reveal, quote, deliberations within our office, as he put it. That left the members of both committees time to trying to frame yes or no questions that were confined to what has already been revealed in the Mueller report. Chairman Nadler began with taking apart President Trump's claim that Robert Mueller did not find evidence of obstruction of justice and that the Mueller report totally exonerated the president.
The report did not conclude that he did not commit obstruction of justice. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Chairman Nadler demolished Attorney General Barr's claim that the president fully cooperated with the investigation.
Did the president refuse a request to be interviewed by you and your team?
Yes.
Yes. And is it true that you tried for more than a year to secure an interview with the president?
Yes.
And is it true that you and your team advised the president's lawyer that, quote, an interview with the president is vital to our investigation, close
Yes.
quote?
Yes.
And is it true that you also, quote, stated that it is in the interest of the presidency and the public for an interview to take place, close quote?
Yes.
But the president still refused to sit for an interview by you or your team?
True. True.
The Republicans seem to be trying to suggest that the president could not be guilty of obstruction of justice if he tried to fire Robert Mueller but did not succeed in firing Robert Mueller.
Was your investigation curtailed or stopped or hindered?
No.
Congressman Lofgren identified what the Russian objective was in attacking our election process.
Did your investigation find that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from one of the candidates winning?
Yes.
And which candidate would that be?
Well, it would be Trump.
No Republican in either hearing today was even slightly interested in why the Russians wanted Donald Trump to win the election and worked as hard as they did to help Donald Trump win. Some Republicans could not understand why a prosecutor would be investigating the president for obstruction of justice if the prosecutor was not allowed, according to Justice Department rules, to indict the president for obstruction of justice. Mueller had the answer for them.
Well, you don't know where the investigation is going to lie, and the OLC opinion itself says that you can continue the investigation even though you are not going to indict the president.
Several Republicans on the Judiciary Committee wanted to talk about the FBI investigation of the Russian attack on our election that began during the election campaign in 2016. Robert Mueller was not involved in that investigation that occurred during the presidential campaign and refused to answer all of those questions. No Republican was interested in the details of the obstruction of justice evidence that the Mueller report outlined against the president. But the Democrats were.
Based upon your investigation, how did President Trump react to your appointment as special counsel?
Again, I send you the report for where that is stated.
Well, there is a quote from page 78 of your report, volume 2, which reads, when Sessions told the president that a special counsel had been appointed, the president slumped back in his chair and said, quote, oh my God, this is terrible. This is the end of my presidency. I'm effed.
You said in your report on page 90, volume 2, and I quote, "News of the obstruction investigation prompted the president to call McGahn and seek to have the special counsel removed." Director Mueller, the most important question I have for you today is why? Director Mueller, why did the President of the United States want you fired?
I can't answer that question.
Director Mueller, that shouldn't happen in America. No president should be able to escape investigation by abusing his power. But that's what you testified to in your report. The president ordered you fired. The White House counsel knew it was wrong. The president knew it was wrong. In your report, it says there's also evidence the president knew he should not have made those calls to McGahn. But the president did it anyway. He did it anyway.
Simply trying to obstruct justice can be a crime, correct?
Yes.
An obstructive act could include taking an action that would delay or interfere with an ongoing investigation.
That's true.
Your investigation found evidence that President Trump took steps to terminate the special counsel, correct?
Correct.
Corrupt intent exists if the president acted to obstruct an official proceeding for the improper purpose of protecting his own interests, correct?
That's generally correct.
An unsuccessful attempt to obstruct justice is still a crime. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that lies by Trump campaign officials and administration officials impeded your investigation.
I would generally agree with that.
I'd like to ask you, the reason, again, that you did not indict Donald Trump is because of OLC opinion stating that you cannot indict a sitting president, correct?
That is correct. And for reasons known only to himself, Republican Congressman Ken Buck decided to emphasize and re-emphasize that the president could be indicted after he left office.
Could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
You believe that you could charge the president of the United States with obstruction of justice after he left office?
Yes. At the beginning of the second hearing in the Intelligence Committee, Chairman Adam Schiff said that the hearing would be about disloyalty to country.
Disloyalty to country. Those are strong words, but how else are we to describe a presidential campaign which did not inform the authorities of a foreign offer of dirt on their opponent, which did not publicly shun it or turn it away, but which instead invited it, encouraged it, and made full use of it? That disloyalty may not have been criminal. Constrained by uncooperative witnesses, the destruction of documents, and the use of encrypted communications, your team was not able to establish each of the elements of the crime of conspiracy beyond a reasonable doubt. So not a provable crime in any event. But I think maybe something worse. A crime is the violation of law written by Congress. But disloyalty to country violates the very oath of citizenship, our devotion to a core principle on which our nation was founded, that we, the people, and not some foreign power that wishes us ill, we decide who governs us.
Robert Mueller began by going back to one of the questions that he was asked in the previous hearing.
I want to go back to one thing that was said this morning by Mr. Liu, who said, and I quote, "You didn't charge the president because of the OLC opinion." That is not the correct way to say it. As we say in the report, and as I said at the opening, we did not reach a determination as to whether the president committed a crime.
Where the Judiciary Committee concentrated on obstruction of justice, the Intelligence Committee concentrated on the Russian attack on our election.
Director, who did the Russian social media campaign ultimately intend to benefit? Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, October 31st, 2016. Boy, I love reading those WikiLeaks. Donald Trump, November 4th, 2016. Do any of those quotes disturb you, Mr. Director?
I'm not certain I would say.
How do you react to that?
Well, it's probably problematic is an understatement in terms of what it displays in terms of giving some I don't know, hope or some boost to what is and should be illegal activity.
Director Mueller, I too want to focus on the written responses that the president did provide and the continued efforts to lie and cover up what happened during the 2016 election. Were the president's answers submitted under oath?
Yes, yes.
What did you determine about the president's credibility?
And that I can't get into.
Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney asked the question that I've repeatedly said I hoped would be asked.
Why didn't you subpoena the president?
We were almost towards the end of our investigation, and we'd had little success in pushing to get the interview of the president. We decided that we did not want to exercise the subpoena powers because of the necessity of expediting the end of the investigation.
The president didn't ever claim the Fifth Amendment, did he?
I'm not going to talk to that.
Nobody told you couldn't subpoena the president, is that right?
No, we understood we could subpoena the president.
So my question, sir, is did you have sufficient evidence of the president's intent to obstruct justice, and is that why you didn't do the interview?
There's a balance. In other words, how much evidence you have to satisfy the last element against how much time are you willing to spend in the courts litigating the interview with the president. The reason we didn't do the interview is because of the length of time that it would take to resolve the issues attendant to that.
That was the only time in the hearings when Robert Mueller actually did discuss at any length the deliberations of his team. We will surely spend the next few years, or the next several years, learning more and more about the deliberations of Robert Mueller and his team. Why were they concerned about how long it would take to enforce the subpoena compelling the president's testimony? There was no time limit on the investigation. With the president publicly attacking the Mueller investigation as a witch hunt for years, were Robert Mueller and his team concerned that they might wake up someday and find themselves all fired by the President of the United States? How did that concern affect their investigation? Did they speed up their investigation because they were concerned the president would fire them? When they discovered through Don McGahn's testimony that the president had already ordered the repeated firing of Robert Mueller, did that change their investigative tactics? No special prosecutor team in history has ever faced such public harassment on almost a daily basis by the president himself. And no special prosecuting team in history has been dealing with a more unstable and reckless president. How did that affect the way they approached the investigation? All of those are questions about what Robert Mueller and the Justice Department would call, quote, the deliberations of the Mueller team. And so there were no answers to those questions in today's hearings. And answers to those questions would lead to other questions that could not be asked today. The real history of the Mueller investigation will not be written until we know answers to questions about the deliberations of the Mueller team.